Hello, my dear students. I hope you're all safe and you're all doing well, and hope you're all healthy, and everyone who's close to you, your family members, all of you are safe. Dear students, today we study probably one of the most important fundamental rights in the Constitution because today we're going to talk about the right to life. And without life, there is no value to any other fundamental right. It is only when you can live that you can exercise and enjoy other rights that are available to you. And students, Article 21 is a very small article, just about 20-25 words. And yet, in this 25 words, there is an entire universe, there is an entire world of rights that are encapsulated within these few words. There are three main elements under this article that we need to concentrate on. One is, of course, life. Second is personal liberty. Third one is the procedure established by law. We begin with our study of Article 21 by studying the right to life. What is life? This was a question that was extremely difficult to answer. What comes within the definition of life? What is included within life? And it is because this answer is so difficult that Article 21 is so wide and yet so narrow. A few years ago, when right to life did not include the right of a homosexual person to lead their life, a homosexual person was considered, and a homosexual act was considered to be criminal in India before 2018 September. In September, the Navteej Singh Johar judgment came out, and then uh, Section 377 of the Indian Penal Code was not applicable to consenting adults. Article 21 was so wide, it included so many other rights, and yet it did not account for the rights of homosexual people. Despite being so wide, Article 21 was narrow. Today, we have the right to life, which includes the right of homosexual persons also. And yet, something might come up tomorrow where we feel that Article 21 is not wide at all. That is why, because we have so much difficulty in defining life, we have so much difficulty in putting Article 21 inside a box. What is today the box is bound to expand tomorrow. The journey of defining and the journey of expanding the horizons of Article 21 and particularly the right to life began well before there was an Article 21 or well before there was an Indian constitution at all. It goes all the way back to 1877 to an American case called Munn versus Illinois, MUNN, Munn versus Illinois, 1877, where one of the judges at that time, Justice Field, said that the right to life must contain within its fold the right to lead life with dignity. Life cannot be a mere animal existence. There should be an element of humanity there, and that humanity, that the fact that you are a human and you have some fundamental rights, including the right to life, must always include within its fold the right to lead life with dignity. Nearly 100 years later, in the case of Francis Corelli versus Union Territory of Delhi, in the case of Francis Corelli versus Union Territory of Delhi in 1981, India also said, the Supreme Court of India said that right to life includes the right to lead life with dignity. Again, 4 years later, in Olga Tellis versus Bombay Municipal Corporation, it was reiterated and strongly upheld the right to lead life with dignity. It's reiterated and strongly upheld again in Bombay Municipal Corporation. Olga Tellis versus Bombay Municipal Corporation. Olga Tellis, while talking about the right to lead life with dignity, insisted on the right to livelihood, the right to do some job and earn money. This also Olga Telescate spoke about. Recently, when the lockdown for coronavirus was being announced, the Honorable Prime Minister of this country said, "Pehle jaan, phir jahan," and then he changed that to "jaan bhi, jahan bhi." Initially, before, when he said "jaan hai to jahan hai," then he changed that to "jaan bhi or jahan bhi." So, jaan, life, must within its fold contain livelihood. Otherwise, there is no dignity. Even the Prime Minister of the country has recognized this. And he recognizes this merely because he is reiterating something that the Supreme Court has said. And what the Supreme Court has said is an age-old principle, more than 100 years old principle, that the American Supreme Court said in 1877. Right to life includes within its fold dignity and livelihood. How do you achieve dignity? It is by having some other expanded elements like the right to environment. Multiple MC Mehta cases that go all the way back to Shriram Foods and Fertilizers, the oleum gas leak from the late 80s, 1987, and MC Mehta, multiple MC Mehtas have happened since then. All of them talking about addressing different kinds of pollution and addressing these pollution, all these kinds of pollutions through the foundation of Article 21 and the right to life. In-ray noise pollution, Ratlam municipality versus Vardhachand, all of them talk about different types of pollution which directly have an impact on your quality of life. Today we have gone to an extent where in 2012, in the case of Ram Leela Maidan, the right to sleep undisturbed at the correct place at the correct time was recognized by the Supreme Court. The protesters who were forcibly evicted from Ram Leela Maidan at midnight by the Delhi police, the move was questioned by the Supreme Court. They said, why did you have to remove them at that time when they were sleeping peacefully? Why did you not find any other time to remove them? However, the right to life does not include within its fold the right to die. This was laid down clearly in Gyan Kaur versus State of Punjab, 1996, and Gyan Kaur overruled an older 1994 judgment of the Supreme Court in P. Ratnam. P. Ratnam said that you have the right to die, but it was established that you do not have a right to die in Gyan Kaur versus State of Punjab. However, recently the Supreme Court has recognized your right to die provided you are in a vegetative condition. So if they are forcibly keeping you alive by keeping you on life support, and if the life support system is removed, can you die or not is the question. Can you die if the the life support system is removed? If you are only artificially being kept alive and you are in a vegetative state and you're being forcibly kept alive, can you die was the question, and the Supreme Court said yes. If the feeding tubes and the breathing apparatus and the life support system is removed, if in that condition if the person can die naturally, then there is a right to life. But otherwise you cannot kill yourself. You do not have the right to do that. The right to education also comes within the right to life. But of course, Article 21 capital A has since been inserted by VDA, the constitutional amendment. But otherwise, under right to life, education was included as a fundamental right in Unnikrishnan versus State of Andhra Pradesh, a journey that began with Mohini Jain and then culminated with Unnikrishnan. The second element that we need to learn under Article 21 after life is personal liberty. What is personal liberty? Liberty in many ways means freedom, personal freedom. It was understood in India initially that personal liberty, the term is restricted. Because it is not right to liberty, it is right to personal liberty. The scope is restricted. This is the understanding that we had. And this understanding was reflected in A.K. Gopalan. The judges who sat and decided, A.K. Gopalan, the first judges of the Indian Supreme Court, they did not feel that Indian Article 21 and Indian right to liberty is as wide as the US context. However, a few years later, A.K. Gopalan happened in 1950, about 13 years later, in Khadak Singh versus State of Uttar Pradesh. Khadak Singh versus State of Uttar Pradesh also played a role in right to privacy. We will come to that momentarily. But in Khadak Singh versus State of UP, a 1963 judgment, Supreme Court said that personal liberty in India is not at all restricted. Personal liberty in India does not merely mean freedom from physical restraint. So personal liberty in India does not merely mean that if you are not wearing handcuffs, then you are having personal liberty. No, that is not the meaning. In A.K. Gopalan, we said that restraint from physical liberty, from physically tying someone down, restraint of physical liberty is something that we can consider as falling within the scope of Article 21 and personal liberty. Restraint of personal liberty is the only thing that we should consider. But however, the scope was much more expanded in Khadak Singh versus State of Uttar Pradesh. Justice Iyengar, who was one of the judges in Khadak Singh, said that personal liberty cannot merely mean freedom from physical restraint, freedom from personal restraint. No, then if that is the case, then the entire purpose of Article 21 is defeated. That's what Justice Iyengar said, and rightfully so. Subsequently, in 1975, in Govind versus State of Madhya Pradesh, the decision in Khadak Singh was again reiterated and upheld. This journey of expanding the scope of personal liberty led to discussion surrounding the right to privacy. Do we have the right to privacy as a part of our Article 21? These questions were again the questions that were raised in Khadak Singh, which was subsequently repeated and affirmed in Govind versus State of MP, found some kind of stability and finality in the decision of R. Rajagopalan versus Tamil Nadu, where it was said that personal liberty is much broader than the mere freedom from physical restraint. 1994, Rajagopalan versus State of Tamil Nadu, Otto Shankar case as it's called. However, the right to privacy was again recognized as a very restricted right. In Mr. X versus Hospital Z, a case where it was said that even a person with HIV/AIDS has the right to lead life with dignity. In the same case, it was also said that yes, an HIV/AIDS patient has the right to privacy. But this privacy cannot come at the cost of someone else's health. So what happened is Mr. X was going to marry. Hospital Z, where he was getting treatment for HIV, knew that he's going to get married and knew that he's not told his bride to be about his condition. So they told her, which was a breach of patient confidentiality, and it was also a breach of Mr. X's privacy. Which is why you look at the level of privacy, it's still Mr. X versus Hospital Z. No one knows what hospital it is except those judges. It's not been revealed. But still, the judges said that if you had not told your potential wife that you have AIDS, then you would have ended up giving her AIDS. Or even if you hadn't given her AIDS, you have taken away her right to choose, her right to health, her right to life is targeted by your right to life. And therefore, the hospital did nothing wrong. That's what the Supreme Court said. The right to privacy is restricted. It's not absolute. It does not. It cannot come at the cost of other people's rights. And this personal liberty, privacy through personal liberty, was again examined in Selvi versus State of Karnataka, which we've seen in the self-incrimination article. Right to privacy and the right to personal liberty was again established. And this journey finally concluded in the Aadhaar judgment, that is Justice Puttaswamy. Right to privacy is a fundamental right under Article 21. There are, of course, restrictions. No fundamental right is without restrictions. The same can be said for right to privacy. This reason, the reason why we always thought that personal liberty and life can be read in a restricted manner is because we thought that the right to life comes from Article 21 and the sole repository of right to life is Article 21. But in Menaka Gandhi versus Union of India, we said, the Supreme Court said that Article 19 forms a part of Article 21. Article 14 forms a part of Article 21. So the sole repository of right to life is not Article 21. Article 21 just tells us that we have the right to life. There are other articles also which give us the right to lead life with dignity, find livelihood, and so on and so forth. Again, personal liberty and the right under personal liberty, just like the rights under right to life, have also seen an expansion. In Sunil Batra versus Delhi administration, the right of prisoners was decided, and the right and under personal liberty it was said that no prisoner deserves to be put in solitary confinement. Solitary confinement is an unconstitutional practice. This was said in Sunil Batra. The prisoner other rights of prisoners were also examined in Prem Shankar Shukla versus Delhi administration. The right to legal aid, the right to have a lawyer appointed, a lawyer who works towards your best interest, was recognized in Sukhdas was a union territory of Arunachal Pradesh. Arunachal Pradesh was at that time a union territory. 1986, Khatri was a state of Bihar, another case where the right to legal aid, the right to have a lawyer represent you was recognized. And if you cannot afford a lawyer, it is the duty of the state to appoint a lawyer for you. In Suktas, in fact, they went to the extent of saying if legal aid is not provided, and therefore a person is not able to adequately represent himself or herself, then that conviction will be struck down. So a person has committed murder or is convicted of murder. Later they find out that he did not or she did not have a proper lawyer and the state did not appoint a proper lawyer for them. Their conviction can be struck down. It can be said that they are acquitted. Under Article 21 and its expanded scope, we have also seen the right to a speedy trial. I keep reiterating this. When a certain Bollywood actor was convicted and then 15 minutes later the High Court gave him bail, everyone says, how is this correct? But the right to justice, the right to speedy trial, the right to a fair trial are all recognized in India under Article 21. Husainara Khatun, there are series of Husainara Khatuns, almost Husainara Khatun 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You will see multiple such judgments from between the years 1979 and 1980. Prisoners' rights, talking about people who were just wasting away their lives in prisons in Bihar when they should have left the prison after completing 2 years punishment. But they were there for more than 20-25 years. Supreme Court said that trials must be done quickly. So if you are spending your life in a jail, so the Supreme Court actually said that if the crime that you have committed, if the maximum punishment is 3 years, and you've already spent 2 years in jail as an under trial, then you must be discharged. If the court has not been able to convict you of an offense, the maximum punishment for which is 3 years, and you have spent already 2 years in jail as an under trial, then you should be allowed to go back home. That's what the Supreme Court has said. You also have a right to a fair trial. The Best Bakery case, or also known as the Zahira Sheikh versus State of Gujarat case. The Best Bakery case, part of the broader Gujarat riots. Trials were not happening properly. It had to be shifted from Gujarat to Maharashtra. Fair trial was not given. And that is when we reiterated that we have the right to fair trial. We have the right to justice. We have the right to speedy trial. All of them are linked. A popular Bollywood actor keeps, or not just a popular Bollywood actor, multiple Bollywood actors, multiple politicians, they get bail immediately. Poor people don't. So we should not say how did they get bail. We should say good that they got bail. Now let us make sure that the poor person also gets bail. We should not try and make everything equal by denying everyone fundamental rights. We should try and make everything equal by giving everyone access to fundamental rights, and that is the greatest justice that we can serve. The greatest service to Article 21, the greatest service to the Constitution is by making sure that the fundamental rights are equally available to everyone. Right to cruel and unusual punishment. There was a question: is the death penalty a cruel and unusual punishment? And the Supreme Court was asked to decide this in Jagmohan versus State of Uttar Pradesh, 1973. Is the death penalty unconstitutional? But the Supreme Court in Jagmohan in 1973 said that no, it's not cruel and unusual. It's a valid form of punishment. 7 years later, in 1980, the Bachchan Singh judgment came out, where it was said that only in the rarest of rare cases can we give out the death penalty. And subsequently, in Machi Singh, we laid down the guidelines for what is rarest of rare. So in Jagmohan, we said that it is not cruel, it is not unusual. Then in Bachchan Singh, we said that it should only be given out during rarest of rare cases. And since then, we've stopped giving out death penalties left, right, and center. We are very, very cautious about giving the death penalty in India. And subsequently, we laid down guidelines to decide what is rarest of rare. There was a question later that was asked: what about those people who have been given the death penalty and whose mercy petition is pending before the governor or the president for many, many years. In the case of Vatishwaran versus Tamil Nadu, 1983, Supreme Court said that if your mercy petition is pending for more than 2 years and you get the death penalty and you're not hung within 2 years, so in 2020 someone gets the death penalty. By 2022, if they're not hung, then that death penalty should be cancelled. It should go back to it should go back to life imprisonment. The Vatishwaran judgment was, of course, struck down later. However, the Supreme Court has come down harshly on the practice of not deciding on mercy petitions. Presidents and governors sitting on the file and not deciding on the death penalty at all. This is something that the Supreme Court has been very critical about, that the Supreme Court has come down very harshly on. But however, the judgment in Vatishwaran, which said within 2 years you have to hang or otherwise the judgment will be the death penalty cannot be given anymore, that judgment was struck down. You must understand that almost every fundamental right that is contained in our constitution can be brought within the right to life. Under Article 19, we have looked at the right to know, the right to be informed, the right to lead a knowledgeable life. You get knowledge with your right to express. It's contained in Article 20. Article 19 and Article 21 are more often than not always linked. Right against self-incrimination, double jeopardy, all these things which are contained in Article 20 are also part of 21. Freedom from unnecessary restraint, freedom from being restrained and detained without a trial, all these things which are contained in 22, providing a fair opportunity even for persons who are preventively detained, all these things are also forming a part of Article 21. And as recently as 2016, the concept of leading life with dignity was reiterated in Jija Ghosh versus Union of India. It was a very heartbreaking case. A person with cerebral palsy was asked to get out of a plane because of their medical condition. The Supreme Court said that when you do such things, you're taking away the dignity of a person. You're making them you're making them lead a life of mere animalistic existence, and that we cannot accept. The Supreme Court said so, and rightfully so. Rightfully so. A person is capable enough to buy a plane ticket. The person is capable enough to fly, unless of course they have some serious disease that they are spreading. That then of course you cannot allow. Then other people's rights are affected. But I don't see a situation where someone with cerebral palsy is taking away someone else's rights. And therefore, I strongly support the Supreme Court's judgment in Jija Ghosh versus Union of India, where the right to lead life with dignity was reiterated. Now we come to the third concept. We have finished the element of right to life, we have finished the element of right to personal liberty, and we have seen how broad it is. However, there is a third element, procedure established by law. Both of these rights can be taken away using the procedure established by law. What is the procedure established by law? Initially, again, this was restricted. We only looked at whether there was a procedure, whether there was a law, was the law validly made, that is, whether the definition under 13 is met, whether the definition under Article 12 of state is met. Is this procedure made according to a valid law? That is all that we looked at. And in AK Gopalan, we said that if we wanted a broad scope, we would have added due process of law. Due process of law is a term that is mentioned in America. There was a huge debate. Should we write due process of law or should we write procedure established by law? In the Constituent Assembly itself, this debate was there. And in AK Gopalan, when the decision was made, the judges said that, look, the Constituent Assembly debates are very clear. They did not want due process, which means they did not want an expanded scope. They wanted procedure established by law. However, the position in AK Gopalan, the narrow reading of Article 21 that was taken in AK Gopalan was changed. That AK Gopalan and many other cases after AK Gopalan, such as ADM Jabalpur versus Shivkant Shukla 1976, more famously known as the habeas corpus case. Something very, a very interesting coincidence is that the judgment in Shivkant Shukla was given by Justice D.Y. Chandrachud, who later went on to become the longest serving Chief Justice of India. And ADM Jabalpur's judgment has now been struck down by his son, Dr. Justice Y.V. Chandrachud, in the privacy judgment. So ADM Jabalpur, which was the culmination of a journey that started in AK Gopal in 1950, looked at Article 21 as the sole repository of fundamental of the right to life, which I've said earlier also. Each fundamental right was looked at exclusively. But Menaka Gandhi judgment has made it absolutely clear, and the establishment of the basic structure doctrine has also made it absolutely clear that any law must be just, fair, and reasonable. So, yes, you can take away my right to life by a procedure established by law, but that procedure established by law must be just, must be fair, must be reasonable. It cannot be brutal. If you want to hang me to death, hang me to death. But if you want me to just shoot me to death on the road, that's not there, because in death also there is dignity. Even in death there is dignity. I have the right to lead life with dignity, and when I'm going, I have the right to go with dignity. Which is why defamation. When you defame someone, you are not allowed to defame anyone who is dead also. Defamation, the right to reputation is available even to a dead person, because even in death there is dignity. These restricted positions that were adopted in AK Gopal, and where procedure established by law, there is a law was made properly, follow it. That was taken away. In Menaka Gandhi, they said, yes, please follow the procedure that the law has laid down. But please remember, this law needs to be just, this law needs to be fair, this law needs to be reasonable. Again, the irony is Justice Chandrachud only held the same position in Menaka Gandhi. The just, fair, and reasonable clause was held by Justice Chandrachud later. This is a clear example of how the constitution evolves. People change, people evolve, their perspectives broaden, and eventually the judgments that we give might be a different position that we take. Of course, the judgment in Shivkant Shukla was valid even while Menaka Gandhi was valid. Menaka Gandhi expressed a different opinion to that of Shivkant Shukla, but it was explained away by saying that Menaka Gandhi is a normal time judgment, and Shivkant Shukla judgment or ADM Jabalpur judgment only applies to emergency period. But even that is not valid anymore. ADM Jabalpur is not a valid judgment anymore. It has been overruled. Now we must look at what, to close out, to draw out the end. We must again look at Sunil Batra a little bit, which is most famously known as the prisoners' rights case. There are multiple prisoners' rights cases, but Sunil Batra is very common when it comes to associating prisoners' rights with right to life. Sunil Batra judgment said that law is not merely any piece of legislation. Law is not just some piece of law that someone just gives you. Law must have an element of natural justice. Law must give both parties or all the parties the right to be heard. Law must make sure that the same person does not judge his own case. The law must make sure that the judgments give reasons for the final judgment. The logic, the reasoning behind the ultimate decision is explained. These natural justice principles must be contained. Law must establish fair play. When you take away someone's life, when you steal someone's property, fair play is gone. And this taking away of fair play cannot be by unfair means. When someone takes away fairness, you bring back the fairness using a fair system. You cannot have an unfair system to establish fair play. So law must include these elements, and for as long as you don't include these elements, the law cannot be the law, and therefore procedure established by law is not a mere blind following of any blind piece of legislation. No. Procedure established by law is following a just, fair, reasonable law that adheres to the principles of natural justice and establishes fair play in the society. This is what Sunil Batra said. Basically, taking forward the judgment in Menaka Gandhi and taking forward the decision that AK Gopal and Shivkant Shukla, these are all outdated judgments that have no place in our society. Finally, we come to the question: who is this available against? Article 21 was usually, it is understood that it's available against the state, but the scope has broadened. There was a case, MC Mehta versus Kamal Nath, which was an environment right case. It involved one of the rivers in Punjab, and forcibly trying to change the direction of a river in Punjab. MC Mahta versus Kamal Nath. Kamal Nath, the former Chief Minister of Madhya Pradesh, is evidently an individual. The case was filed against him in his capacity as an individual, and this was a PIL, and the Supreme Court allowed it. It was an environment right case, which means it is a right under Article 21, and of course, Supreme Court upheld the right to environment that all of us common citizens have. Bodhisattva Gautam versus Shubhra Chakravarti, another case where the right was made available against a private person. This was a case where there was a promise to marry a woman, and because of that promise, the woman and the man had relations, intimate relations, and later the woman found out that the man cannot marry her because he already has another marriage, a validly subsisting marriage. And as you know, because he was a Hindu, or he was not a Muslim, so he couldn't have more than one marriage subsisting. So she went to court saying that she's been raped. The only reason why she gave consent to having such relations was because she thought that there was a that marriage could happen. But later she found out that marriage cannot happen. So in that case, the Supreme Court said every time a woman is violated in that manner, her right to life is also violated. The Vishaka guidelines talk about how accountability for right to life is also placed upon each individual citizen. Is placed on each individual person. The right to life, when if a woman who is sexually harassed at workplace is also losing her right to life with dignity, a woman who is sexually harassed at workplace is not able to have dignity in her workplace, which is a part of right to life, then that individual accountability must be placed on each individual person who is sexually harassing her. This is something that the Supreme Court recognized. So now we have expanded the scope. It is still very restrictive. We don't try and place hold individuals accountable for violating someone's right to life. But yes, there are exceptional cases where individuals have also been held. However, the general rule is that the state is accountable. This is basically what we've learned under Article 21. It's an extremely wide scope. Prisoners' rights are included. Right against solitary confinement is included. Right to justice is included within this. We have rights against handcuffing. We understand that the right to life includes the right to environment, the right to education. However, it does not include the right to die. And we see that Article 21, through its three elements, which is the right to life, which is the right to personal liberty, and the protection that these two rights will only be taken away by a procedure established by law, which is just, fair, and reasonable. A just, fair, and reasonable procedure established by law can only take away our right to life and right to personal liberty. We have studied all this under Article 21, and I end this video with the hope that no person is denied their right to lead their life with dignity. Thank you so much.